Welcome to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm your host, Gregg Francis, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Barry Kaplan. We save lives, plain and simple. Have you known someone stricken with leukemia? Has a family member of yours suffered from lymphoma? Then turn up your dial. This show is for you. We are the gift providing a second life. We are the gift of life. Since 1999, we saved over 2,700 lives. For many patients with blood cancer, bone marrow donation is often their last hope, and that's where we come in. We try hard at what we do, but we will never be satisfied until we can say, one day, we found a match anytime, anywhere, for anyone. That's the gift of life way. So now we have the scissors, we've opened the box, and now it's time to unwrap the gift of life.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show. I believe that this is our 22nd show. I can't believe it, and I really have to thank our listening audience. Last week's show, it recapped what goes on behind the scenes of Gift of Life. It talked about the delicate situations, the frustrating situations, but most importantly, the life-saving situations that we combat on a daily basis. And I'm happy that our listening audience got a taste of what it's like behind the scenes, what we do every day. Some things are definitely out of our control, but a lot of times we're a third-party entity trying to connect A and B, and I think that we've done a very, very solid job over the years doing that. For those of you also who tuned in last week, you know that September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. I have my two esteemed guests looking at me. I know, fellas, it's December. However, only creating awareness for 1 month will not solve the blood cancer epidemic. So we will continue to spread the word, and we really ask our listeners to do the same. Pacific Islanders are having a tough time. It's been in the New York Times and Washington Post. Our Hispanic friends are underrepresented. Asian people are underrepresented. Our African American friends are underrepresented. And recently, along with my two esteemed colleagues, we had discussions with some minority groups affected by this, and they're suffering the consequences of people not swabbing. And suffering the consequences means that people are unnecessarily dying. Certain people just don't have the requisite knowledge to know what to do. We're here to help. So if you're interested in recruiting bone marrow donors, if you're interested in starting a drive, please call Bridget or Frederick. They're waiting for you right now at 1-800-9-MARROW. They're going to get you started. They're going to make it as easy as possible. Again, Bridget and Frederick are waiting at 1-800-9-MARROW. This is something that I haven't had the ability to talk about that much this season, and the Jets won this week, and they lost this week. What do I mean? Well, they won the game 16-11. As hard as they tried to lose it, they actually ended up winning. And that was the first time that was the final score of any NFL game in its esteemed history. But by winning, they lowered their opportunity in the draft selection to pick out a blue chip, if there is any, quarterback prospect in the draft. So they're winning 16-11 with about 40 seconds left. And Tennessee Titans ran a hook and lateral for about 80 yards. It was very reminiscent for those that remember the Stanford-Cal game when the Stanford band came on the field. So it was it was quite interesting. As a Jet fan, I had mixed emotions. I was probably hoping that they would lose, and we would have a chance to get Marcus Mariota. So, Rex, again, I appreciate the 6 years. You definitely gave me some comedy. Enough Jet talk. We have 2 more weeks left of misery. We're playing the Patriots, and my good friend Al Birkin is here, so maybe we'll repay the favor. You guys have been in the playoffs 11 straight years. I'm a long-suffering Jet fan. So, for those who have been our supporters this season, welcome back, and we thank you really for all that you've done to spread awareness and transpire action for our show, and more importantly, for our cause. Because of you, we are ranked the #1 radio show on 1470 WWNN, our flagship station, as well as, believe it or not, the #1 bone marrow radio show worldwide. And yes, there is more than one. I know it's hard to believe. I don't believe it, but there's quite a few, and we're the #1. We're the top dog. So, as previously mentioned, and I'm very proud of this, in 2015, our show is going to be syndicated in 6 major cities. So that means more awareness, more people swabbing, more contributions. But the real goal of this is that more lives will be saved. That's why we do what we do. This year alone, we're coming to the end of the year, and Gift of Life will be responsible for saving over 130 lives just alone this year for 2014, and that's going to bring our total in our history to over 3,000. Now take a step back and listen. 3,000 lives of critically ill patients that wouldn't have gotten a second chance. And that's why I brought our 2 guests who you're going to meet momentarily. But 3,000 lives and their families. It's very humbling, it's very emotional, and it's very passionate, and I'm very, very proud of what our team does on 800 Yamato Road and those that work remotely. So congratulations, team, and congratulations to our listeners. Without the collective and collaborative efforts, we couldn't have never ever in our wildest dreams made that happen. Also, as we reflect on year end, I want to touch upon Arlene Feinberg. She was the matriarch of Gift of Life, who unfortunately passed away this January. And Arlene had a vision, and her vision was to find a match anywhere, anytime, for anyone that is suffering from blood cancer. Let's all make a collective goal. In 2015, let's make Arlene's vision Arlene's reality. And I believe that we could do that. Thank you. For those people who are tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you could join us for Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm Gregg Francis. Welcome to our show. We encourage our listeners to call in at any time at 1-888-565-1470. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. We broadcast live from Boca Raton. Normally it's raining, but today it's a beautiful 76 degrees. Every Tuesday evening from 4 to 5 p.m. Why are we here? We're here to spread awareness about the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, a life-saving nonprofit that gives patients like our 6, soon-to-be 7-year-old Sammy a second chance at life. And that's another goal that I have in 2015, to try to find her a perfect match. And Doug and Barbara and Junior and Cindy, we're working as hard as we can at Gift of Life to make that happen. We want to remind everybody of how special life is, and not to take for granted how every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Please take stock of what I'm saying. Every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. And as my friend Dr. Lennis, who might be listening in Boca Raton, said, the absence of anything bad is good. So don't take for granted the little things that you have and never thought that you may need in the future. And it's been a mantra of my show, before I go any further, I have to thank my own gifts of life. People who make me smile every day and remind me of how lucky I am. To undoubtedly my biggest fan, my mom Katie, who I believe is listening with Aunt Miriam in Lake Worth. Thank you, Mom. I love you. To my biggest Maryland fans, hello and thank you, Grandma Margie. And to my dear friend Billy Beagle, who's in Rockville listening. And to my 2 boys who are my gifts of life, Nicholas, who was 12 last week, and Patrick, who turned 8 this past Friday. I love you both. We had a fun birthday party with Patrick. He's in 2nd grade, and some of them are really, pretty good bowlers. So we had a lot of fun. I love bowling with the kids. We really, really had a great time. So let's get some housekeeping out of the way. We have our 5th annual Walk for Life in Boca Raton. And it's going to be taking place on January 18th, 2015 at the beautiful FAU campus in Boca Raton. It's going to be fun, and I'm going to ask Alex in a second why the Boca Raton Walk is special to him. So normally January 18th, or whenever we have our walks in February, it's normally the coldest day of the year. If one day in Florida happens to be 40 degrees, it's the day of the walk. But the weathermen right now said that it's going to be very, very nice. So registration is going to be at 8 a.m., the welcome ceremony at 8:30. The grand event, in my mind, is where a recipient meets their life-saving donor, and that's going to happen at 8:45. And then for your certified 5K runners, you're out there and hopefully going to win the race. Those that want to, walk around, mosey, talk with some friends, we could do that. We're going to have a 1 mile fun run, and there's a lot of kids events that are going to be going on. But we're going to soon find out why the donor-recipient meeting for the first time is so special. And again, if you want to learn more about the walk, how you could sponsor the walk, how you could form a team, I want you to call my friend Marty at 1-800-9-MARROW. She's going to be waiting for your call. And being that it's year end and it's a time of giving, all the proceeds that we receive from this show, Gift of Life with Gregg, go towards testing kits. And when you test kits, you save lives. So right now, we have Anita and Dominic waiting for your call, again at 1-800-9-MARROW. And last but not least, we're really rooting for our friend Abraham Weinberger. He's the wonderful father of our employee Joel that had some health consequences this week. Joel, I'm thinking of you. Your friends at Gift of Life love you, and we want your dad to be real healthy. So right now, I'd like to welcome my guests, who have you heard on the radio before, but now I'm lucky enough to have them in the studio. They're esteemed colleagues, but more importantly to me, they're both dear friends, Mr. Alec Birkin and Mr. Nicholas Hudson. Welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg.
Thanks for having us on. This is Alec Birkin here, longtime listener. It's a pleasure to be here, a little surreal being in studio with you, Gregg, and you, Nick, and I'm excited for what this show has to offer today.
I'm really more humbled by the situation because you two have something in common that very few people on God's green earth have, and that was the ability to save a life. And Alec, we'll talk about yours as we come back from the break about why I love the walks. But Nicholas, you were on our inaugural show, so let's recap. It's been about 5.5 months later. It's been 22 weeks, but you were my first guest.
It has, and that's something I, dream about every night. How lucky I was.
Yeah, you didn't know that. You didn't know that you were going to be on the #1 rated bone marrow show. I mean,
I was
you were hoping. I mean,
I wished for it for my birthday. I said, what I want this year more than anything else is to get on the #1 rated bone marrow show in the country. And luckily, someone was listening.
Yeah, no, you got something off your wish list. I mean, some people want ESPN, some people want CNN, but you got on Gift of Life with Gregg. So, Nick, let's go back 22 weeks. You had a little boy on the phone with you. Mm-hmm. From New Hampshire. Why don't you tell us your story?
I did. So I should back up and say that I registered when I was in college. I went to school in Atlanta. And
come on, plug your school.
And it was the Emory University.
All right.
Good school. A lot of fun. We'll talk about that some more later, actually. Hopefully.
Yes.
So I swapped in college, just between classes. Was kind of looking for an excuse not to attend the following class and swabbed my cheek and kind of just, forgot about it. And then 18 months later, got a call that I was a match for a 4-year-old boy who had leukemia. And that call changed my life. Not only did it change Cameron's, or what I knew at that time was a 4-year-old boy. I didn't know his name.
Correct.
So I wound up donating bone marrow at University of Maryland. A year later, got to meet Cameron and his family, and I'm still really close to them. They live in New Hampshire. I live in New York. I see them all the time. We talk all the time. I just spoke to him on Thanksgiving. And now he's 12 years old and he's totally healthy.
He's totally healthy.
He's totally healthy.
And if you did not swab, what probably would have happened?
Sorry to say, I don't know if he would have made it. He was diagnosed even earlier than that when he was 2.
Right.
And then he, was in remission. And then, the doctors just decided based on, his current state that he was in at that time at 4 years old, that was really the only solution. So as far as perfect match goes, that's what they told me. He said, you're his perfect match. So I don't really want to think about what could have happened otherwise, but I'm just happy that it worked out.
I'm more than happy that it worked out. And the reason why I say what could have happened is the importance of not only donating, but going through the process. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say this now, he's, you said 12 years old?
Mm-hmm. 12.
12. And this summer he was at baseball camp.
Yeah, he went away. He got to go with some friends, hang out. It's something I used to do, know?
It's something that we all did, but you gave him that ability to have that second chance. And he affectionately called you his blood brother.
Yeah.
And probably still does.
Yeah. What's kind of cool about that is that was created out of him not really knowing, or what his doctors weren't really sure what to call me. And, his parents didn't know how to explain that there was a person out there who was going to help make him better. So they just said it's a guy out there who is like your blood brother. So that's why we still call each other that.
And his parents are wonderful.
Awesome people.
So what was it like? What year were you in Emory when you decided to swab?
It was right before senior year. And I got the call after I graduated.
Okay, so what were you studying?
At the time, and eventually it was psychology and sociology.
Okay, so you're studying psychology and sociology. Eventually, you had ideas of going to law school, which we'll get into in a second. Mm-hmm. So you find out that you're the match or a potential match for a 4-year-old suffering from cancer.
Correct.
So just go over and tell our listening audience the next steps.
So what happens after you get that call is, you go for some blood work to make sure that you're still healthy enough to donate. Since many people have signed up years before they actually get a chance to donate, they got to make sure everything's up to date.
Correct.
So you go for a quick blood test, local place. At the time I lived in Chicago, it was right around the block.
Right.
Then, if you're still the best match, because oftentimes there can be more than one,
right,
you go in for a physical. And that's at the place that the actual donation will happen. So for me, that was at University of Maryland in Baltimore.
Okay, so UMBC, right?
UMBC, yes. Great hospital.
And I want to piggyback off of something that you said, Nick. Donors usually get a lot of credit, as they should, because they're heroic. But I do not want to undermine all the people that are backups, mm-hmm, that are ready, willing, and able to donate, because they're heroes in my book, too. They didn't have the opportunity, but they were ready, willing, and able to step up if needed. Mm-hmm. Generally, hopefully more times than not, you only need one perfect match, and in this case, you were. But when you take 5 steps back and you clear your head and maybe get emotional, what is it like knowing that you had the capacity to give a little boy? And it's very sensitive to me because, as you know, I always say every show, when we started, he was 11, now he's 12. How does it feel to you that you gave or helped give somebody the opportunity to go out, eat ice cream with his friends, listen to Billy Joel, as he said, and go out and play baseball?
Yeah, it's... Alex said the word surreal before, so I'd say that's probably the best word to describe it. You go into it never thinking that you're going to be that match. They tell you it's 1 in 1,000 chance. So you try not to really think about it, to get too excited or to get too down that, the chances are so small. But, I don't really think it took a lot to donate. For me, it wasn't a really long process. It wasn't a long recovery. So I don't think I did anything that, I couldn't do again. And that other people can't do. So for me, I don't really think of it.
And yours was a bone marrow, right?
It was a bone marrow transplant, yeah.
So what was the recovery time?
It was a couple days after. I was a little sore.
Right.
I found out, after that, most people don't actually donate that way.
Yes.
Most people do it through blood, but I did it through my, the old-fashioned way, I guess you could say.
Which is only about now 20% of the time.
Yeah, I know now, less than 20% about. For me, the recovery, I was sore for probably like 3 or 4 days tops. I wasn't sore like sitting on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I was just kind of puttering around my apartment like an old man, but it wasn't too bad. I put some movies on. My roommates made me, dinner every night, so could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse, and the end result is a 12-year-old's able to go to summer camp and now in 6th grade.
Yeah.
So, would you do it again?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. That's actually a part of another interesting thing that just happened. I got called again. That was a match for somebody else. And you said that it's always good to have these people who are the backups.
Correct.
So I got all excited again. I got all
Right.
pumped that I was going to be able to do this whole thing again. And they actually wound up calling me later and saying, you know what, it's not going to work out right now. So either I wasn't the best match or the patient wasn't ready, but I kind of got both experiences, of being able to go all the way through it and then also being told, okay, you're on deck. Just be ready.
And I always like to give a hearty thank you for the backup donors. I'm so appreciative. I mean, who wouldn't be appreciative of a senior in university not knowing an individual, not knowing exactly the process? I'm sure that Gift of Life walked you through it.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, you don't know if you're going to meet this person. You just know that it's a kid in need, and you didn't think twice about it.
No, and the workup team was what we call them, the Gift of Life, does a good job of that too. They make it pretty obvious how important it is, because it's a delicate balance. You have to make sure the person realizes what they're doing is really important.
Correct.
Without, coming down too hard on them, because you want to make the person feel like they're comfortable and that, they're not being pressured into anything. So I always admire them for being able to kind of toe that line, which is difficult.
That's a great expression, and you stole my thunder. Is that no? It is towing the line because it is a voluntary process from beginning to end, and you want to be, and we pride ourselves on being honest about that process. Mm. But if you have all the facts in place and know that there's virtually no risk, I don't think that the decision is a very hard one. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do now is take a break, and then when we come back, I want to explain why walks are important and significantly in Boca Raton. We'll be back in a few.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, that's throwitbetter@gmail.com, or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
If you own a business and have the need for commercial insurance, I suggest you call Chris Moore of Brown & Brown Insurance in Fort Lauderdale. Chris has been in the commercial insurance business for over 30 years and can handle any company's need for property, general liability, workers' compensation, and automobile, just to name a few. Brown & Brown, being countrywide and the 5th largest agency in the country, gives Chris the tools he needs to meet all your insurance needs. So call Chris at 954-331-1420. Again, that's 954-331-1420. We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation. It's all about the kids. Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back to The Gift of Life with Gregg. We're certainly here to take your calls at 1-888-565-1470. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. And if you're just joining us, we have two esteemed guests and my colleagues, and most importantly, dare I say, my friends, that are heroes in the world. They saved a perfect stranger's life. And we just heard from Nicholas Hudson. To recap, he was at Emory University studying sociology and psychology. Got a call that after swabbing that he would be a match for a 4-year-old boy. He went ahead and swabbed. They confirmed that he was the perfect match. Had a bone marrow transplant. Was sore for 3 days. But the 12-year-old, the boy that was 4 is now 12, eating ice cream, listening to Billy Joel, a healthy 6th grader playing baseball. And I don't know what could be better than that. So again, thank you, Nicholas. My dear friend and an avid table tennis player, Alec Birkin, who I can't say enough about, an exemplary employee, a phenomenal friend, and a tremendous ambassador to Gift of Life. And without me going any further, let me tell Alec his plight, and we'll explain to you why the Boca Walk is so meaningful to us.
How's it going, guys? It's a pleasure to be on the show. My name is Alec Birkin, originally from Boston, operating as a special projects coordinator there. Having my feet, in a lot of different places within the Gift of Life, and being able to advocate in many different ways to get as many people as involved as possible. And it's been a wonderful 11 months since I first joined.
It's been more, I hope it's been half as wonderful for you as it has been for us. So I know that you went to school in upstate New York, so tell us how you got initially involved, Al, with Gift of Life.
Sure. My story, I think, is not so specific, because actually 208 lives have been saved as a result of a relationship with the Birthright program.
Correct.
And for those of the listening audience that don't know, the Birthright is a 10-day trip to Israel for American-born Jews. And so I was on this trip. I was halfway across the world in Israel, enjoying my trip. And because it's a free trip, they urge you to give back. And I was spoken to by a group of ambassadors in their own right from the Gift of Life that were volunteers, and I decided to swab my mouth in the hotel in Jerusalem. And that was really my first exposure.
And how did you learn about the Birthright trip?
Interestingly enough, I actually had my best friend since day one of Syracuse University. His name is Scott Rosen. He lives in Philadelphia. And he had just come back from the summer prior to our freshman year. And so when I met him, he was, hot off his trip and really excited about it, and organized a group of us that had all met freshman year at Syracuse to go on the trip the following summer.
Okay, so what year were you in Syracuse when you went to Israel on the Birthright?
So I was in between my freshman year and my sophomore year. So my freshman year summer, I was in Israel.
Okay, and you certainly, it was definitely an emotional trip, and you learned about the values of giving back, and you decided to swab.
You do. You learn about the Jewish values of tikkun olam and pikuach nefesh, how, the highest ideal in the Jewish religion is the ability to save a life. And it's an amazing thing that I was blessed with.
So did you go back to school after, or talk me through the process?
Sure. So yes, I went back to school the following August. So this is August of 2011. And I had a great year. My sophomore year, I was part of a fraternity at Syracuse. getting to know the school. And at the end of that year, I was studying for my finals. Didn't spend all that much time studying for my finals.
Did
but
you have fun at least?
I had a good time at Syracuse. Yeah, this is a fun place to go. I'm not going to discount that fact. So I was studying for my finals, and I got a call from a woman named Gail, who actually still works at the Gift of Life, and I have the pleasure of calling her my colleague now. And she delivered the life-altering news that I was identified as a potential match for a 59-year-old woman who was dying of leukemia. And she asked me if I was willing to go in and, just like Nick, give a sample of blood to determine if I was, in fact, that perfect match.
And what were you thinking? And to use your term, life-altering, you're getting ready for finals. I'm sure you had a heck of a lot of fun in Syracuse with your fraternity, going to ball games, meeting a lot of new people. So you're studying for your finals. You get this call from Gail, who's a phenomenal colleague, Gail Goldschlager at Gift of Life. What was going through your mind, Al?
Well, actually, interestingly enough, and coincidentally enough, my grandmother lives in Boca Raton, and so I see, the caller ID, the 561 number, and I assume that my grandmother had got a new number. So, part of me didn't want to pick up the phone because I was studying for my finals, but I decided to answer, and it was certainly not my grandmother. It was this, lovely woman named Gail, and, at first hearing, I was ecstatic. It was just 1 year removed from my registering for the bone marrow registry. So it wasn't, all that far away. It was still in the forefront of my brain. I still remember, swabbing my mouth on that, hot day in Jerusalem. And I was just excited about the possibility of going forward.
So the possibility did go forward, and what happened when you found out that you got the golden ticket?
Sure. So I went in and I gave my blood sample. My sister Liza was wonderful in accompanying me that day in a facility, actually a LabCorp in Rhode Island. And then about a month later, it was July of 2012, the summer once again, and I had the opportunity to go ahead and donate. So it was, from start to finish, just about a year and 2 months after I had first registered, I was donating.
You were donating. So were you donating peripheral blood, or like Nicholas, were you donating bone marrow?
So alternatively to Nicholas, I did have the peripheral blood stem cell procedure, which is a procedure that's just similar to donating blood or platelets for an extended period of time. So if any of you in the listening audience are familiar with the procedure of dialysis, it's very similar to that, in which the blood comes out of one arm, it circulates through a machine, which separates the blood from the stem cells. The stem cells are collected in a bag, and the blood is then recirculated into the other arm. And your stem cells are collected and flown off wherever in the world your recipient might be located.
And that could be international, domestic. So everything has to be timed so acutely, because the patient is being treated to be ready to host these cells that you're giving them.
Sure. There's a lot of moving parts, going on in these donations, and that's one of the most fascinating things to me, is that there's so many individuals that are key players and stakeholders in a donation, and the beauty and the essence of that all to work out is God's gift.
It is. It's so many stakeholders and so many different organizations that have to work in concert with one another, and we're all a conduit on a spectrum to make this person's life saved. So, Al, you said that beautifully. So let's ask the audience, because there's probably something. What was the recuperation time for you?
I actually had the fortune of playing tennis the day before my donation and the day after, which is something that people never really can comprehend. Because, people think bone marrow, they think stem cells, and they're sort of these taboo words. And they think, long recovery processes, and I am a living example, and here to tell you today that is just not the case.
It's unbelievable. So in the United States, there's a 1 year moratorium for where a donor or a recipient can meet each other. So a donor meets a recipient meets their donor. So there's a 1-year moratorium with the provision that both of them agree. So how did you find out that your recipient wanted to meet you?
So I believe it was December of 2013. So we're at about a year and 3 months post-donation. So well over the allotted time that it needs to remain anonymous. And I, at that time, had consented to want to meet my recipient. And I got a call from another one of our colleagues, Barbie Slovin, at the Gift of Life, and she asked me if I would be interested in meeting my recipient down at the Boca Raton headquarters in front of a couple hundred people at that time was a completely foreign event to me, but it's called the Boca Raton Walk for Life.
Right, and this is why it's important for me. Where did you meet you met your recipient at, I believe it was the 4th annual Boca Walk for Life.
Yes, this is correct.
And now I'm going to plug it. Why it's important to us. This is the 5th annual Gift of Life Walk for Life, which is on January 18th, and I mention this every week. Alec, who met this 59-year-old lady, I believe that she was from Chicago, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And you met her at the walk, and I say that really, if for one reason you go to the walk, please go, because a stranger, not knowing who, if, what, he just knew the age, the sex, and the affliction, correct?
Yes.
Nothing more.
Nothing more.
Nothing, didn't know the hair color, didn't know the eye color, didn't know really too much about anything, but yet you wanted to save this person's life.
Yeah, I mean, I spent nights thinking about what she might look like, or, what her family might be, but I tried to limit, my expectations and my thoughts, and, wait the allotted time to finally meet her so those expectations could more become a reality.
What was it like when you actually met?
Meeting her on that day, a lot of my family was able to come down from Boston and be a part of that special day with me. And I think it really brought the whole donation process, to a reality for me. Beforehand, before seeing her in person and seeing her friends, it's sort of hard to comprehend what you actually did. Because as I previously mentioned, I played tennis the day before and the day after. So I didn't feel like my donation did much. Besides all of the pleasure and the purpose that it gave me internally. But on that day, I was able to experience firsthand, in the present moment, that there was someone in front of me that was existing, that was living a parallel life to me because of something that I had inside of me and was able to share with her.
It's an incredible story, and I have to admit I haven't had the experience that both of you had. And both of you decided to start and continue your vocational career with Gift of Life, and I'll talk respectively. Nicholas, I know that you were training to be an attorney, and Alec was training and got a degree in entrepreneurial finance. Why start your and hopefully have a long career with Gift of Life?
Well, part of it was, I always felt this close attachment to it. So even when I was in law school and even after I graduated, I always used to check the site to see what else was going on. If there was anything I could ever do in terms of attending drives in New York, where I'm from, I would ask to go. Ruth Miller out there in New Jersey, who at the time was flying solo in the Northeast, it was the first person to really ask me to attend the drive and staff it and meet other people who could be potential donors. And that really always piqued my interest, And for me, it hasn't really gone away. If anything, it intensified after I donated. Being able to meet the little guy I donated to and getting to see the difference it made for him and his family only made me want to become more involved. And the more times I see those relationships develop through other donors and other recipients, it only, makes it even stronger.
I'm going to give you a plug because you're an extremely humble young man. I've had you in 8 different cities on 8 different days, stewarding drives for sick people, talking to people going through the process. Alec is another humble individual that hasn't been home for 16 days at a clip in 7 different states between recruiting, being an ambassador, being compassionate, being a shoulder to lean on, and both of you having validation because you went through the process. So let me ask the same question to Alec. You had entrepreneurial blood in your veins, and I still think you do because we're going to go into this project in a little bit. But why Gift of Life?
So I think that dates back to sort of the selfish reasons and the selfish, rewards that I received from my donation. And I don't want to play those down because I was 19 years old when I donated, and it gave my life purpose. It gave my life meaning. And a lot of people, they go their whole lives trying to figure out why. That simple question of why am I here and what am I supposed to be doing? And at age 19, to have that answer, to be given that answer by an organization, I felt like I needed to give back. And so every day I am, trying to come up with the best ways to give as many people that same opportunity that was given to me to find out why they're here.
So I'm going to segue into something that you're always coming up with cutting edge ideas. You two have fertile, sharp minds that are always one step ahead of the curve. So I'm going to let you guys speak about your ambitious new curriculum at Gift of Life called the Campus Ambassador Program, and for those in the know, we call it the CAP.
Sure. So the Campus Ambassador Program essentially is our program that we're going to have students at colleges, at those colleges that they attend, be our representatives on campus. So we have 8 campus ambassadors this coming semester for the spring. And what they're going to do is run drives both on their own campuses and on other campuses around there. So let's say we have one from UF. They can do ones at FSU. They can do ones in Miami. They can do ones up and down the coast. And the reason for this is, and this is the important part, is that, me in New York, Alec up in Boston, our staff down in Florida, there's only so much we can do calling up colleges that we don't attend.
Absolutely true.
And in my case, have not attended in quite a few years. So there's only so much I could do as a creepy turning 30-year-old calling college students and asking them to do things on their campus that I don't have any familiarity with. Whereas you take someone who's a junior at that college, who's in a fraternity with some of their own, some other people who they could get to join, or they're in charge of an organization on campus that can mobilize a lot of students at once. They're in such a stronger position to bring Gift of Life and to bring the bone marrow registry to that campus and really spread the word in a much easier way than we can.
So, Al, I'm going to ask you, why the university level?
So I think the answer to that question can best be explained from more of an understanding of Nick and my story. I think the idea was really incepted when we both became donors as a result of the college environment. Nick being at Emory University himself, swabbing, after a blood drive, and myself being a result of one of my college friends urging me to go on the Birthright program. And I think, as Nick so beautifully explained, as best as we can to lessen the degrees of separation between the Gift of Life and the college students is what we're trying to achieve. So for so long, we've been using the recruitment staff as sort of a buffer between the Gift of Life and the college environment. And now we are going direct to the source for those fresh ideas so that individuals can inspire their friends and their peers who they're spending every day with, who they're attending parties with, who they are attending college football games with and concerts, and going to be able to expose the Gift of Life to new and unique opportunities.
All right. Al, I'm going to get back because you said that extremely poignantly. We're going to the direct source. direct people who are bonding for life could make a social difference. But let's take a call. I believe that we have a lady who's been a caller to the show before. Alice, welcome again to Gift of Life with Greg.
Thank you. How are you, Greg?
Good. Happy holidays to you, Alice.
A happy holiday to you.
So what do you think about these two young men?
Well, you know what? I just have to come right out and say it. Are you familiar with the word cvel, Greg?
I'm sorry, the word what?
Cvel.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm cvelling. I am, for your listeners who don't know, I'm Alex Birkin's mother. And, I'm getting a little choked up here, Greg. But I'm cvelling, and I'm cvelling not only because of Alex and what a hero he is, but also because of Greg and all the donors and everybody that's involved with the Gift of Life. They are heroes. They continue to give back. And what's so incredible is how much they give back, as you said, so humbly, and they give back with such passion. And they truly believe that the gift has been given to them, not that they're giving a gift. And I think that speaks for a lot of members of Gift of Life, and it's really just a beautiful thing. And as I sit here, thinking about miracles and the miracle of life and the miracle of light as we, by the
Correct.
setting, and as we get ready to start Hanukkah, it's just, it's just sort of overwhelming.
I'm emotional right now, and I'm a parent as well. And I certainly hope that my two young boys will have the ability to do what your son and Nicholas Hudson right next to him. But I want, Alice, if I could ask you to put your parent cap on for a second, how does it make you feel that your son was directly responsible for giving somebody a second chance?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I feel as though, I really do feel as though Susan is, a part of our family. Alex, again, he never hesitated. He called me when he got the call from Gift of Life, and at that time he thought that was like the best phone call he'd ever gotten, that he may have the opportunity to donate. He never looked back. And then again, when he got the call that he was going to be able to meet Susan, that was the next best day of his life. And he, I always, when I'm with him, he speaks all the time at drives, anywhere anyone will listen, how this really wasn't that big a deal. He played tennis the day before. He played tennis the day after. Now, he's a trooper. But compared to saving someone's life and what that means, which is difficult even to comprehend, it really, physically, it was not a big deal for him. His getting ready to donate, his recuperation, in the scheme of things, was really nothing. And when you talk to people, and they hear what Alec is doing, and they hear about the Gift of Life, and they hear that he donated, everybody thinks that it must have been so difficult physically. And his message, and mine as well, is that no, don't hesitate. And in the end, it's, as Alex says, it's life-altering for the donor as well as for the donee. So as a mother, I'm just, as I said, I'm quelling. I'm very, very proud of him.
And as you should be. I'm not embarrassed to say it. Every show in my mantra, I always thank my mother because she is my gift of life. So I'm gonna turn it over to your son. And I think it was very nice that your mom called up, and she's part of the Gift of Life family.
She is. The best drives that I run are when you're by my side, Mom. And it's amazing being able to connect with you over the phone, over the radio. I'm in Florida, you're in Boston. And, I tell you this every day, but I love you. And thank you so much for continually advocating for for the gift of life, and even more so for me and supporting me in any route that I choose.
I love you, baby. Okay.
All right,
Bye,
Alice.
guys.
We love your son here. He's doing a great job on his first radio show. Thank you for always calling in, and thank you for being the great mom of someone that I look up to every day.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Okay, have a nice night, everybody. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy
Happy
Hanukkah. Have a blessed holiday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that was an emotional call, and that's what it's about, because it's not only the person that you save, the donor's family's involved, the recipients are involved, but we need a few things to make it happen. People that are vested in the cause, like you two, who are lay people, donors, employees, but more so than that now, advocates. So just to prime the pump, next week we're going to have some of these campus ambassadors on the show. And the question that I ask you in anticipation of next week's show, what do you hope that they get out of the program?
Well, there's a lot of different things that we are hoping will be a result of this program. And I think first and foremost is that these ambassadors find the same meaning and purpose in an occupation and an internship program that we find in working for the Gift of Life full time. The second, I think, would be the ability for them to recruit young donors on their campus. So that will in turn, boost the availability in the registry of these young donors, and in turn save many lives. And thirdly, I think would be for these campus ambassadors to facilitate and open doors for the Gift of Life that we have otherwise not been able to. I think the ability to partner with other on-campus organizations across the board that will enable the Gift of Life to register a really subset of diverse donors will be the main benefits of this program going forward.
Well said. So you put a lofty task in front of them, so I really hope that they make you proud. We have another caller on the line. Jay, you're on Gift of Life with Gregg.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
How are you?
Good. I just wanted to call from the perspective of a bone marrow transplant recipient and say how incredibly moved I am to hear everything that was said on this show and everything that Nick and Alec had to say. They're true heroes in my eyes. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my bone marrow donor, and I can just think of no greater gift that one human being can give to another than the gift of life. So I would just like to thank Alec and Nick for what they have done for their recipients. They're incredible people, and it's an honor and a privilege to have them as part of the Gift of Life family.
And Jay, I'm not going to let you get off the hook so easily. You were a recipient, but yet your family, and we discussed your mother at the top of the show, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your father, Jacob Feinberg, who was in the office today. Such a sweet, sweet man in yourself. You're responsible with your teammates for saving over 3,000 lives. Could you even put that into perspective?
No, I can't. You know, when I got sick and I was told that my only hope of the cure was a bone marrow transplant, never in my wildest. And I think that it would turn what was a mission to save the life of one person would turn into this incredible organization and campaign to save many people. And my family might have been facilitators in that respect. It might have been my picture and story on the flyers. But the fact of the matter is that the heroes here are the bone marrow donors who make this happen, who give of themselves unreservedly to save the lives of total strangers. I got to meet my donor. Nick and Alec got to meet their recipients, but the fact of the matter is that they did this knowing full well that they might have never met their recipients, and yet they did it anyway for complete strangers, and that's just unbelievable, just truly, truly unbelievable. Proud of you both very, very much.
Thank you, Jay. This is Nick. One thing that I always think about, because a way to prevent guys like Alec and I from getting a really big head, is really to really express that we're not like superheroes. We don't go into this thing, wearing a cape and coming out of it and telling everybody what you did. And one thing I actually overheard someone tell someone before at a drive was, I've never met Superman before, but I've met a lot of Clark Kents. I met a lot of people who wake up every day and put on a dress shirt and pants, or a skirt, and wear that cape underneath those. They go on about their day, and that's really, I guess, the point to stress to everybody else who's listening is, what I mean. You might not think you're a superhero, but you could be that Clark Kent. You could be that person who signs up one day and the next day, morphs into Superman for that other person.
It's incredible. I want to tell Jay that our listening audience collectively, we're working on something to memorialize our matriarch of Gift of Life, Arlene Feinberg, who unfortunately passed away this January, but boy, did she leave her mark on planet Earth when she was here. Jay, our listening audience has made a pledge that we're going to turn Arlene's vision into Arlene's reality, and that's going to be our mantra in 2015. And I'm not going to call you Jay, I'm going to call you my dear friend. We're going to make this happen.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you for your incredible leadership of the organization and your role as our Chief Operating Officer. You've really brought incredible programs to fruition, and you've made a lot of this come to fruition yourself, so thank you very much.
No, I'm just here. I'm getting the 20 seconds from Ken. Jay, I will speak to you shortly. Everyone, okay. I can't thank you enough for listening. Alec and Nicholas, everybody have a great week. God bless, and our campus ambassadors will be here next week. Let's have a great week. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Life with Greg. I wanted to personally say thank you to everyone who participated in today's show. And I also wanted to let you know if that you're interested in what we do here at The Gift of Life, please call 1-800-9-MARROW. That's 1-800-9-MARROW. Or you can visit our website at www.giftoflife.org. Again, that's www.giftoflife.org. Even though we're wrapping up our show today, remember, you must always unwrap the gift of life.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.